is a production of the Department of Broadcasting and Journalism at Western Illinois University.
Good evening and welcome to News 3's election show coverage. I'm Emily Manley.
And I'm Danny Fry. Tonight we will bring you updated election numbers for local, state, and national races.
We also have live shots from Republican to Democratic watch parties, along with a report from the Western Illinois University Student Watch Party.
Later on in the show, we will hear from a political science professor to analyze the election.
We're going to start out our coverage by taking a live look inside the watch parties for both the Democratic and Republican watch parties. You can see here just on your screen, we have Megan Sanchez, who you are seeing in the box, and then on the box on top, that is the Democratic watch parties. Later on in the show, we will bring you up-to-date information from both Megan and Redrick, who are going to have their packages about both candidates, stories that they can tell us live from the locations along as the evening goes on.
You can stay up to date with us throughout our show with our social media pages. Find us on Twitter and Facebook.
That's right. Feel free to mention us if you have a question. We also have a hashtag. It's News3 Election 2016. When you're talking about the election night, feel free to use our hashtag.
There's an Illinois Constitutional Amendment on the ballot that has some voters confused.
Dr. Casey LaFrance from the Political Science Department explained what the amendment is proposing.
Is that monies collected from transportation-oriented state commerce, so things like speeding tickets and railroad fines and so forth, has to be reinvested in transportation. So it limits the discretion of the General Assembly to put that money into use in other projects, other state areas.
This is also the first year that Illinois voters are allowed to vote and register on Election Day. News 3 met up with two students who went to the courthouse this afternoon.
Honestly, I moved here to go to school at Western, and this is my first semester here, and I had no idea how exactly to do it. I'm registered in Rock Island County, and normally I go out to vote there, but apparently they had some sort of meeting in one of the union halls to encourage students to register to vote, but I didn't get like an email or anything, so I had to ask a classmate.
This is my first time voting, so this is a first time experience for me, so this is all news.
Illinois also has the longest available voting period in the country. 24% of residents in McDonough County voted early this election.
And throughout the show, we will have News 3's JT Greider live in the newsroom, bringing updated numbers throughout the area.
He joins us now from the newsroom. JT, do you have any updates from the area for us?
With a full newsroom behind me, we're keeping up with the electoral votes for the presidential race and also for our local races. Here in a local race for the U.S. Senate, we have currently in the standings Tammy Duckworth with 50.4% of the votes and Mark Kirk with 44.3% of the votes. And for the District 93 out of Mason County is the only one that we've got reporting so far. John Curtis has 43.3%, Noreen Hammond with 56.7%. Out of the presidential race, we look, and now Hillary Clinton is reported with 97 electoral votes, Donald Trump with 123. We're going to keep updated throughout the night. We're going to keep looking at these electoral votes. We're going to keep you posted on Facebook and on Twitter. We're going to keep looking into our local races as we will bring you more updates later on in the show. We're going to keep it posted here on Facebook and on Twitter. But for all, back to you.
Thank you, JT. We'll see you back in a little bit. Now, over the past week, we have brought you an interview with the Department of Political Science Chair, Dr. Keith Bockelman. We have more on that interview now, looking at the state angle. The state level, we have Kirk versus Duckworth. Kirk has had some medical issues within the past year. Do you think that is affecting his campaign?
Well, I think it may affect his ability to campaign in some ways. He's also said some things that he might not have said in the past. I guess a good example was in a debate last week where he made some fairly nasty comments about Tammy Duckworth's ancestors, suggesting that they couldn't have served in the military before, and then she came back and showed that they had. And so I think some of these things have hurt him. He's lost some endorsements based on those comments. So I think I think that he's had a tendency to say some things or blurt out some things sometimes that maybe he wishes he hadn't.
Now, let's move on to the comptroller. You know, it's kind of, you don't hear too much about that. It's kind of pushed under the rug. Why is that?
Well, I think a lot of people don't know what the comptroller does, and so it's not a high-profile office. It's an important office. I mean, it's essentially the state's bill payer. But I think because it's in the presidential election year, Judy Bartopinka, who was the sitting comptroller who was elected in 2014, died, and so Leslie Munger was appointed, but only for 2 years of the term, essentially. So we have an off-year election. I think in many ways it's become kind of a surrogacy battle between the governor and the Speaker of the House, the governor supporting the current comptroller, Leslie Munger, and the Speaker of the House supporting her challenger, Leslie Mendoza. And so I think that politically it's been seen as that, but again, a lot of people don't know what the comptroller does. They don't really know what makes a good comptroller or a bad comptroller. So I think the dynamics of this race, on the one hand, you've got a lot of money coming in for Munger, particularly from the governor, and so she's been able to run a lot of ads. And so how much will that build up her vote? By contrast, I think Mendoza will build up a huge margin in Chicago probably, and the question will be, will Munger be able to counter that downstate and in the suburbs?
So we are also in the state that has not passed a real budget now in over a year. What do you think that has effect on voters?
Well, I think, for many state employees, they're very frustrated by this. I think it plays out a little bit regionally again in places where there are a lot of state employees, like this district where you have a lot of people working in Western and some in the prisons. Also, people are very concerned about it. I think it does become a salient issue. In other places like the Chicago suburbs where they don't see it as much, where there are fewer state facilities, and where the road money has gone out for the summer to pay for that, I think they're probably less cognizant of it and less aware of it. I think that the governor has clearly been criticized for not having a budget during his first 2 years in office, and so I think it's become an issue, but it's become an issue that plays out differently in different regions of the state.
Because Illinois back in 2008 had President Obama that, from Illinois, played a big role in Illinois. Do you think that the state will have the same voter turnout as 2008, or do you think it will be less because we're not technically voting for someone from the state?
Yeah, that's a good question. I suspect it might be a little bit less. In 2008, there was a lot of turnout for Obama and a lot of talk about hope and change, and I think that did generate a lot of enthusiasm. Again, in this election, there's not much enthusiasm for either candidate. There's more fear. The other thing, and this played out in 2008, of course, as well, but there's not much doubt about who's going to win Illinois. And so I think to some degree that depresses turnout. People already feel like Hillary Clinton's way ahead in the polls in Illinois, and so they may feel like either if they're voting for or against her, it may not be worth voting as much. So I think statewide, I don't think you'll see the same turnout levels you did in 2008, probably.
The resignation of Representative Aaron Schock. Running against him for the Democratic Party is Junius Rodriguez, who is a professor at Eureka College.
Now, Republican candidate Leslie Munger is currently holding the position of the Illinois Comptroller, but running against her is Democratic candidate Susan Mendoza. Mendoza was the first female clerk for the city of Chicago and currently is an outreach director with the Chicago Department of Planning and Development. Running for the Libertarian Party is Claire Ball, and Tim Curtin is running for the Green Party.
There is one candidate running for McDonough County State's Attorney, and it is Republican Matt Kokala. He graduated from Macomb High in 1993. He became felony prosecutor for Knox County in 2006. Now Kokala now works for Flack, McCraven, and Stevens in Macomb.
Now moving on, Mark Kirk is the current United States Senator from Illinois. Kirk won a special election back in 2010 to serve President Obama's Senate term. He is running against Democratic candidate Tammy Duckworth, who is currently U.S. Representative from Illinois for the 8th Congressional District. Kenton McMillan is running for the Illinois State Senator for the Libertarian candidate, and Scott Summers is running as the Green Party candidate.
Stay tuned while we go away, because after the break, we are taking you live to 2 local candidates. And if you're looking for more election coverage, go follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search News3 WIU.
And use our hashtag News3Election2016 to stay up to date with everything that's going on in this election. We'll be right back.
Children struggles with hunger in America. Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
Looks like it's done.
Don't let salmonella get funky with your chicken. On average, 1 in 6 Americans will get a foodborne illness this year. You can't see these microbes, but they might be there. So learn the right temperature to cook each type of meat. Keep your family safe at foodsafety.gov.
Welcome back to News 3's election coverage. We are live with you for an hour talking about the latest updates, and we have 2 reporters out in the field of the Democratic and Republican watch parties.
Now, before we head out to our reporters, we want to remind you that you can follow us on social media for the whole entire hour.
Once again, we want to remind you to stay up to date. Again, you can go on social media, all of those pages. Find us on Twitter and Facebook.
Feel free to mention us if you have a question. We also have a hashtag News3Election2016. When you are talking about election night, feel free to use our hashtag.
State Representative for the 93rd District, Noreen Hammond, has an opponent for the first time.
Democratic candidate John Curtis is a Western Illinois University instructor. He and his wife Karen own Barefoot Gardens located in Macomb, and I sat down with Dr. Keith Bockelman, who discussed the 2 local candidates.
Well, I think there is a lot of interest in the state legislative race, obviously. I don't know that most people would turn out just for that. People who are interested in that are probably people who regularly turn out. There is also a lot of anxiety surrounding the election, and so there's sort of 2 things that can drive voter turnout, either enthusiasm or fear. I think at the presidential level we have a lot of fear right now. I mean, each side is very afraid of the other person. getting elected. So I think that could drive turnout. So I expect decent turnout, maybe not 2008 level, but at least probably similar to 2012.
Now, back to the 93rd district, we have Noreen Hammond going against John Curtis. Noreen, who has never had someone run against her before. What do you think of that race? I mean, you have two people there that Noreen hasn't really knocked on doors like John Curtis has.
Yeah, he's been out in the district, knocking on a lot of doors really for the last year or so. She has somewhat of a monetary advantage. She also has an advantage in registration in the district. It tends to be a Republican district. That said, a Democrat can win. I looked at some of the statistics from 2012 when John Sullivan was running for state senate, and he won all the counties in the district, in the representative district. So it is possible for a Democrat to win, although a Republican has somewhat of a registration advantage given the structure of the district.
And John Curtis says that he has gone on 10,000 doors that he has knocked on. Do you think that Noreen Hammond is nervous that she has not taken the same kind of way with it all?
Well, I do think, she has not had a challenger before, so I think she is probably nervous from that perspective of having to fend off a challenge, and a fairly strong challenge, that's working the district and so forth. I guess that since I've lived here, this is probably the first time I've seen a challenger be this out in the district and so forth.
So come election day, who in your mind do you think is going to pull forward, especially with this? You told me the other day this is a Republican area.
Well, I really hesitate to make election predictions because I've been wrong so many times. I think we may see a fairly close race, but I don't know for sure who's going to win it.
So let's now move to the 1% sales tax. What do you think about that in McDonough County? Because it's a sales tax, it's not a property tax, and it's for McDonough County schools.
Right. Well, I think that, this is one that I think is probably facing some headwinds. The 1% is quite a bit. Some of the previous sales tax referenda have been a fraction of that, and so it's a big ask. You have presidential election year turnout, which probably means a lot of people who may not vote in off-year elections or local elections, WIU students, for example, or other people who may not have children in the public schools, may also be voting. So I, again, don't want to make a prediction, but I think that this one is facing some headwinds, probably, some challenges that maybe some other tax referenda that have passed in the past, it may be a little bit more difficult for this one.
In addition to the ballot in McDonough County this year is a proposal for a 1% sales tax increase. The increase would go to local school renovations. Superintendent Patrick Toomey says 39 other counties in the state have voted to pass similar proposals. But tax increases are a hard sell in any community. The question is, was there enough done to get the motion passed today?
Only 5 days left until Election Day. McDonough County residents will have the opportunity to vote for or against a local tax hike on the ballot. The McDonough County proposal of the school facility occupation tax is asking residents to pay 1-cent sales tax per dollar spent. For the sales tax to go into effect, it has to be passed. If the sales tax passed, it will be used to fund school facilities in McDonough.
We apologize for the technical difficulties.
And the 93rd district consists of 8 counties. We will go back to Danny's pack here in a second. We are currently working out some technical difficulties. Now, the 93rd district consists of those 8 counties, which those counties are Brown, Cass, Fulton, Knox, Mason, Schuyler, Warren, and McDonough. This is the first time the district has had to vote on a new representative since 2008, when the late Richard Myers ran against Earl Dott. Myers held the position for 15 years before he died in office.
Representative Noreen Hammond was appointed the 93rd District back in December 2010. In the 2012 election, she had no opponent. Hammond attended Western Illinois University and serves on the Consumer Protection and Higher Education Committees.
Now, we have 2 of our News 3 team reporters live at the headquarters of Noreen Hammond and John Curtis, candidates for the 93rd District.
We're going to start by heading over to Megan Sanchez, who is out front of the Hammond's headquarters right now.
Hi, Emily and Danny, and good evening. I'm here at the McDonough County Republicans headquarters where State Representative Noreen Hammond is holding her watch party. She represents the 93rd District in the Illinois House of Representatives, and she's been doing that since 2010 when she took the place of Rich Myers, who passed away from cancer. Before taking his place, though, she was his legislative aide for 13 years. I sat down with her earlier this week to talk about her candidacy now that she's facing an opponent for the first time.
I'm Noreen Hammond.
Working across the aisle. That's what State Representative Noreen Hammond says has led to success in her stint representing the 93rd District in the Illinois House.
If we as Republicans are going to get a bill passed or any initiative, you have to be able to work with people.
For almost 6 years, she's held her House seat, but now she's facing her first challenge to office. Democratic candidate John Curtis.
I just feel like he will better represent the people of this area. I mean, I feel like Noreen Hammond has done an okay job, but I think there needs to be a new perspective.
Hammond chose not to debate Curtis leading up to Election Day, and she says she stands by that decision.
I was not going to put myself in that position, and certainly not going to put my family in that position of having to defend falsities.
Hammond's platform highlights education. She wants to push for funding for K-12 and higher ed institutions across the state, which is why Macomb resident David Bormet is supporting her.
And she's been in office for a number of years, and done a good job from my aspect in that, and a real supporter of Western and schools.
Her supporters' biggest praise, though, is her experience.
She listens whenever we talk to her, and she really has good reasons. And I feel that she's more experienced and will help us.
Now, as you can see behind me, the room is just filled with supporters for Noreen Hammond, and you can really just feel the anticipation in the air. No precincts are reporting at this time, so it's hard to tell where this race will go. For now, I'm going to pass it to my co-reporter, Redrick Terry, who's standing by at the Democratic Watch Party. Here in the square, though, for News 3, I'm Megan Sanchez. Redrick, how long are you?
Thank you very much, Megan, and we will hear from you in a little bit later. We are live right now at the John Curtis campaign headquarters at 233 East Carroll. If you take a look right next to me here, we've got a great crowd in attendance. We're waiting for the results right now. Just heard a little bit of results. The crowd began to cheer, and of course, the biggest cheer was when John Curtis himself stepped into the building about 10 to 15 minutes ago. So John Curtis is in attendance tonight. Well, it has been 22 years since a Democratic nominee has held office for the 93rd District in the House and the state representative position, But one Macomb man is trying to change that tonight. I was able to sit down with the Democratic nominee as he talked to us about education and how strong it is to this region, about his reasons behind running and what he faces ahead. The Democratic nomination in Illinois' 93rd District has some new blood. Macomb resident and WIU instructor John Curtis will look to become the first Democratic state rep in this district since 1994. And for Curtis, it's all about giving this district a choice.
I'm looking at Illinois. We've got the worst state government in the country, and looking at the fact that 60% of the state and House races aren't going to have an opponent. And I just couldn't sit back last fall and let Representative Hammond go without any kind of challenge whatsoever. It just could not happen.
As an educator, Curtis says he knows the importance of education and the issues that they are currently facing within the state. His supporters believe that he is the answer for a long-awaited change.
We've had long, dry spells with nothing happening, and all of our services are disappearing. All these people were let go from Western, so it's just time that we have a change and have something happen here.
Not investing in education is like not investing in our future, and we have to have outstanding K-12 programs. We really should have a pre-K program in Illinois, and we have to have excellent colleges and universities, and that's one place that I won't budge. We just absolutely have to fund our higher education institutions, and we need to have excellent K-12.
Besides common things like education, Curtis is aware that this district of 8 counties and over 105,000 residents all have their own separate issues as well.
One of the reasons that I've been going door to door and spending so much time in these other places is so that I can learn about them and learn what their issues are. And the truth is that there are a lot of similarities, but there's some pretty important differences too.
Curtis went on to encourage people to not give up on democracy. He acknowledged the general ugliness of the election season, this one in particular, but he still urged people to go out and vote. And when speaking on the divisiveness of this election, Curtis said, well, after the election, simply put, the partisan politics need to be put away. The Democrats and the Republicans, they need to get together, start working together with those different perspectives and come up with some common solutions for the people in this region. We will have more from the John Curtis Watch Party here at Curtis headquarters coming up a little bit later in the show. But until then, right here from the John Curtis headquarters, I'm Redrick Terry for News 3. Danny Emily will send it back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Redrick. And now we do have breaking news, an update from the U.S. Senate election in the state of Illinois, and it does go to the Democrat Tammy Duckworth at 65.15%. Mark Kirk, the incumbent, only 29.98%.
And they were worried about that because earlier this year, Mark Kirk had a stroke, and he showed up today at the polling place in a wheelchair. So they're not surprised at that win. Tammy Duckworth, though, did pull out that win, and she is the United States Senator for Illinois. Now, coming up next on our News 3 election show, we bring an analyst in who will talk about the numbers.
Stay tuned. We will be right back.
We taught him how to hit a baseball, how to hit a receiver, the strike zone, the net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Hey, Hard, what's this? That's my resignation letter. You're resigning. Why? Because you're constantly ignoring me. You're half as active as you used to be, and you do stuff like this. You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately. That's why I'm ready to quit. I forgot. I'll do better. Please, don't quit on me. Okay. But remember, it's not what you say. It's what you do.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you.
It's good for what?
Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
You make me wear my bike helmet. Taught me never to run with scissors. And to follow the swimming rules.
You tell me to stay away from drugs.
To always buckle my seatbelt.
So why do you keep a loaded gun in your drawer?
How safe is that?
You asked them to follow some safety rules. Now they're asking you. In fact, they're counting on you. Never let your gun get into the wrong hands. Remember, always lock it up. Visit ncpc.org.
Welcome back here, and we bring in Dr. Jonathan Day, Associate Professor in the WIU Political Science Department. Thank you so much for taking the time in this busy election.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And we just broke the news in the U.S. Senate race. Tammy Duckworth won, and it was by a big margin. Yeah. Why do you think it was that way?
I mean, I think it wasn't surprising given that she had a huge lead in the polls
coming up to it. And I think the reason she had such a huge lead in the polls is because a number of factors have allowed the Democratic senatorial candidate to take the win. You have a number of factors like the governor, who is a Republican, who is extremely unpopular, and you have a situation where a Democratic presidential candidate is running strong in the state, and those factors lead for a Democratic candidate to win. And the other thing is that you have a state that is set up for a Democratic candidate to win because it's primarily a Democratic stronghold.
Now, there was a gaffe. Obviously, you had the stroke, unfortunately, for Mark Kirk, and then also he had the gaffe in the recent debate at the University of Illinois at Springfield. Those two things kind of went against him as well?
Yeah, I think, though, that we kind of overestimate how much of an effect that would have. Generally, when you're voting for a Republican, you overlook the gaffes. If you're voting for the Democrat, you just point to that as a reason why you're voting for the Democrat. But generally, those wouldn't have a huge effect on the polls. So we might be able to contribute a very small percentage of the results to that, but you can't contribute a large win like this to a couple of gaffes and stuff. Yeah.
And a very heated local election that's going on right now, the 93rd district for representative with Noreen Hammond and John Curtis. Kind of, what do you think they've done well to this point, and what are you anticipating when some more of those results come in?
I mean, I think John Curtis has done a great job of being a challenger and coming in at the right moment to try to turn the district into a Democratic state district. The problem, though, is he's fighting an uphill battle, right? You have a district that's been drawn in such a way that it primarily has a Republican registration, and so he was always the underdog. I think that this was the best shot for him, given that the situation with the budget at Western Illinois University, which probably made a lot of people think about voting for John Curtis in this election. But again, he's going to be the underdog until the end of the election. So.
And we'll bring it up for the first time on this show, the presidential election. Now, you actually teach a class that's kind of tailored to presidential elections. What do you go over? What goes into that type of class?
In that class, we talk about all about the presidency. So the history of the presidency. We talk about the presidential powers. And we also deal a lot about presidential elections. That was my primary research at University of Iowa was on presidential campaigning and presidential elections. So we do a lot of that in that class.
Now, states. What do people need to watch for? A certain state tips somebody's way. What does that mean? Can you go into that?
Yes. So I think there are 3 states that we really need to look out for as the night progresses. And those 3 states are Ohio, Virginia, and Florida. I think that Florida is sort of a must-win for Donald Trump. Same with Ohio. And if he's able to also pull off Virginia, then it looks like it'll be his night. But if he doesn't win Florida, the game is over. Hillary Clinton wins the election. And if he doesn't pull out Virginia, but yet wins Ohio and Florida, he has to then make up those electoral votes with New Hampshire or some other states.
Dr. Day, thank you so much for your time and your insight.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Coming up next on News 3's election coverage, we go national as we have the updates and numbers and hear from Western students. Stay tuned to News 3.
We taught him how to hit a baseball, how to hit a receiver, the strike zone, the net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Hey, Hard, what's this? That's my resignation letter. You're resigning. Why? Because you're constantly ignoring me, you're half as active as you used to be, and you do stuff like this. You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately. That's why I'm ready to quit. I forgot. I'll do better. Please, don't quit on me. Okay. But remember, it's not what you say, it's what you do.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you.
It's good for what?
Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
You make me wear my bike helmet. Taught me never to run with scissors. And to follow the swimming rules.
You tell me to stay away from drugs.
To always buckle my seatbelt.
So why do you keep a loaded gun in your drawer?
How safe is that?
You asked them to follow some safety rules. Now they're asking you. In fact, they're counting on you. Never let your gun get into the wrong hands. Remember, always lock it up. Visit ncpc.org.
And welcome back. As you just saw, we want to remind you you can stay up to date with us throughout our show with our social media pages. Find us on Twitter and Facebook.
Feel free to mention us also if you have a question. We have a hashtag News3 Election 2016. When you are talking about election night, please use our hashtag.
Now, I know after months and months of listening to ads, debates, you name it, and we all use that fact checking, the numbers tonight will tell us who stands next for the United States president.
News 3 met up with another professor in the political science department who explains how citizens will be happy once this election is over with.
Well, for a couple of reasons. So first, we have the possibility of our first female president. This is the first time in history we've had a viable candidate for that office. On the other hand, this is an opportunity for someone who's a political outsider to become president, and that's really unprecedented as well. So lots of historics on each side. Add to that Donald Trump would be the oldest president ever elected. Ronald Reagan was 69 and 344 days when he was elected, so not by much. But it's going to be interesting. It's caused a lot of fervor. I'm not sure that every partisan is happy or pleased with the two options from the two major parties, but it's certainly given us a lot to talk about, and I think we'll all be glad that when we're done talking about it.
Now, throughout this election, results have changed the battlegrounds. Recent elections have always showed that the Midwest was the battleground, but this time it's more of the eastern states, such as Florida, North Carolina, and even Ohio. Department Chair Dr. Keith Bockelman explained to me why the battleground has shifted. So now, since we've talked about Hillary and Trump, this election is so off the charts, it's not even funny. Why do you think that this election is so different from years past?
Well, I think you've got very unpopular candidates. In fact, you've got the two least popular candidates, or the two most unpopular candidates who've ever run for president. If Trump were not in the race, Hillary Clinton would be the most unpopular. And so I think there's not a lot of positive enthusiasm in this race. The other thing that is, I think, with the constant scandals and controversy, there's a lot of, I read an article yesterday that talked about people are breaking out in hives over the election, and there's a lot of high level of anxiety that even it's threatening people's mental health because they're so worried about the election, and many people are worried about if the other candidate wins, what'll happen. And so I think there's just a lot of feeling of, oh, please let this be over. And from that perspective, also, I think in Trump's case, he's challenged some normal Democratic norms, suggesting perhaps that he won't respect the results of the election, suggesting that he would personally arrest Hillary Clinton if he were put in office. So I think that also is a little bit different than what we've normally seen.
Now, you did explain to me that this election's kind of got that shifting battleground. It's not so much the Midwest like it always has been, it's more to the east.
Well, right, more to the east and the south, and in some ways, I mean, Florida has been a swing state in the past, but it certainly will be again. North Carolina is very much in play. So I think on election night, if we see one candidate, particularly if Hillary Clinton wins Florida and North Carolina both, I think it's pretty much over. If Trump wins both, then he's got a little bit more difficult path right now. Hillary Clinton's a little bit more of a firewall, but if he wins both of those, then I think he's certainly in the game. But you know, some of the normal swing states like Michigan, Wisconsin, I think are pretty solid. Ohio's another state to watch. Trump is ahead right now, and so I wouldn't be surprised. So if Hillary Clinton wins Ohio, then she's also in pretty good shape, but if Trump wins. Now, if Trump were to, say, win some states like Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, that bodes very well for him. They seem to be leaning Democrat right now, but if they were to go for Trump, then that would suggest he's in a pretty good position.
Now let's move to Congress. Our Congress is kind of separated, it's up in the air. Explain how, you know, depending if Hillary or Trump wins, where that puts Congress.
Well, yeah, so we expect that there will be some shifts depending on who wins the election. There was some talk in past weeks about the House of Representatives possibly going Democratic if Hillary Clinton had a big win. I think that's doubtful now. It's looking like that she probably will not have a win of the magnitude that would shift the House. So the big question now, I think, is the Senate. There are 5 or 6 seats that are really very close. North Carolina, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, some of the states where the presidential election is competitive. And so it kind of partly depends on which way the presidential election goes. If Hillary Clinton has a big win, it's likely that the Democrats will control the Senate as well. If Trump wins, particularly if he wins big, it's likely that the Senate will stay in Republican hands. But a lot of these swing states for the presidential race are also ones where there's Senate candidates up. And so the Senate race and the presidential race kind of go in the same direction.
And now, you know, when certain elections come up, you hear that they target certain age groups. Who do you think Hillary and Trump really target when they're up giving, you know, their debates have been so outrageous and they're throwing daggers constantly at each other. Who do you think is really tuning into that?
Well, I think that Trump is clearly targeting older whites, particularly white men. That's really the base of his support. Rural people also. Polls suggest he is doing the best in places where it's predominantly white but rapidly diversifying. Hillary Clinton is targeting women, clearly, but also minorities, trying to get younger people. I think younger people in a lot of ways are up for grabs in this election. There's not the same kind of support for Hillary Clinton that Obama had. So I think, Hillary's firewall is women, particularly older women. Trump's firewall is men, particularly older white men.
Political science teachers wanted WIU students to watch the numbers come in together. Students are gathered at the Multicultural Center.
NEWS3's Brianna Descaray got over there just in time to talk to those students about their thoughts on this election.
WIU's Political Science Department is hosting a watch party for students here in the Multicultural Center. I talked to some students about what they thought about the election so far. Here's what they had to say.
The old adage goes, what hurts more, a sword in the gut or a knife in the back? The answer is whatever you didn't see coming. I think no matter who wins tonight, nobody's winning.
When I think of the election so far, I think it's been a really crazy ride. Both candidates have really different opinions and different things to offer. I think no matter what happens tonight, though, it'll be an interesting turnout. I think it'll be a really close race, but I think at the end Hillary Clinton might just pull out, just because of all the things that Trump has done in the last few days to really escalate how people feel about him.
Most excited for just to see who the winners of the election are, just to reassure my predictions. So.
Reporting from WIU's Multicultural Center for NEWS3, I'm Brianna Descaray.
Thank you, Bree. 24 hours ago, students were already talking to us about how they felt about these presidential candidates. Our news team met up with some of the students who expressed their opinions to us.
I will say Hillary Clinton does conduct herself better in a political scenario. She does have quite a number of years as a political leader, be it Secretary of State, Senator, that she has had many years on the political field, which could help her in negotiations with foreign countries. Donald Trump does seem to inspire people. Whether it is a good inspiration or not is debatable.
I feel like it'd be history if Hillary win, because it'd be the first female president. And it will actually be a disaster if Trump was to win, because he has not presented any solutions into making America great again.
Okay, I waited like 18 years to vote, and these are my two choices. Like, it's not really the best choice, and more of it is based on like my family, because like I'm Mexican, and like a lot of the things that Trump has said haven't actually like worked out well for me, and Hillary's not much any like. But I'd rather have Hillary over Trump.
Trump's not a politician, although, to be honest, if either of them got into office, I'd rather have him. He seems to be more what most of America wants, and could probably change what Obama couldn't. Whereas Hillary is a politician, but Clintons do have quite the history with issues.
Well, it's definitely much more of a controversial election for sure, especially since now we're stuck in a rut and Obama's going to be coming out of office, of course. So what happens now is definitely going to affect what's going to happen to us 20 years from now. And a lot of millennials are speaking out more. So they're not necessarily going to vote, but they're definitely voicing their opinion in the younger generation standards.
Polls have been closed now for more than 2 hours Eastern Time and about an hour Central Time, and have just closed Mountain Time.
We are going to toss it over to JT Greider, who has been watching this very carefully and has where each state stands. JT.
So currently here in the United States, we have Republicans will retain the U.S. House. That is pretty big, as the Republicans have received the majority of the votes to keep their spots, and the Republicans will retain that control. Now, if we look at our electoral map, we can see Illinois has gone to Hillary Clinton. We're also watching down here Florida, North Carolina, and Virginia, and Ohio. We're watching those. If those go red, it increases the chances of Donald Trump winning the election. We're going to keep posted on that and keep you updated there. I don't really have anything new going out, but if you see a lot of the midsection, it's going red. That means Donald Trump's taking control. He has 137 to 104 over Hillary Clinton. Like I said, we're going to keep you updated on Facebook and Twitter and keep these electoral votes going. But for right now, back to you.
Thank you so much, JT. And as we were just looking at that map, I talked to you earlier about the North Carolina and Florida being very, very important, and neither one of those are in yet.
Still undecided. That'll be something to keep up with, especially after this break. We have results from McDonough County as JT Greider heads back into the newsroom, and we will also have an update on the sales tax. That tax increase proposal in McDonough County.
People are really wanting to know about that, so we have that coming up. And also remember to follow us on Twitter and use our hashtag to stay tuned with us through this News 3 election night coverage. We'll be right back.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat?
1 in 5 children struggles with hunger in America. Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back to News 3's election coverage. Earlier, we talked to you about the sales tax increase in McDonough County, and we caught up with Superintendent of Macomb Schools, Patrick Toomey, and local voters on what they thought about the tax and if it's going to get passed today.
Macomb Schools Superintendent Patrick Toomey is an advocate for the increase. He says he has received positive feedback while presenting to various groups such as WIU, Student Government Association, and other organizations.
Presented several times out in public, and so far, all the reaction has been very positive toward this tax. And so I really don't look for any backlash.
Although Toomey has been out in the public and hosted 2 open forums, some voters, like Nancy Hansen, learned about it for the first time while voting.
No, I don't think they've done a good job at all at getting it out. It hasn't been a good job getting it out. If it's something they want passed, they really haven't done a good job of educating the public with it, no.
When talking to local mother Melanie Allen, she realizes facility improvements are needed, but it's still a tax.
I think we're taxed enough already, so I'm against it.
Other voters feel like the quality of education needs a helping hand.
I think that we need to take care of the teachers. The teachers do an outstanding job in McDonough County and in the area, but I think we need to make sure that we have good teachers and good programs and this sort of thing. And from our experience sending our kids through the school system, they've done an excellent job.
Toomey says the weight of the tax will be spread among visitors to local stores, making this a better option than a property tax increase.
I do believe that this is an opportunity for the county to come together and to look at a tax and make a decision as a county if this is right for us.
An update with 80.6% of the precincts in from McDonough County. It is right now 58.17% yes to the 1% sale tax increase, 41.83% no, as we will send it back to Emily Manley at the desk.
Thank you so much, Danny. Now we are going to throw it out to our 2 reporters who are out at the watch party. We are first going to throw it to Megan, who is out at the Republican watch party, and that is Maureen Hammond. Megan, what do you see out there? We are having a little bit of technical difficulties. We are going to send it now to break, and when we come back, we will have more updates. You're watching News 3 Election Night coverage.
You taught him how to hit a baseball, how to hit a receiver, the strike zone, the net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Hey, Hard, what's this? That's my resignation letter. You're resigning. Why? Because you're constantly ignoring me. You're half as active as you used to be, and you read stuff like this. You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately. That's why I'm ready to quit. I forgot. I'll do better. Please, don't quit on me. Okay. But remember, it's not what you say. It's what you do.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you.
Let's go for a walk.
Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
You make me wear my bike helmet. Taught me never to run with scissors. And to follow the swimming rules.
You tell me to stay away from drugs.
To always buckle my seatbelt.
So why do you keep a loaded gun in your drawer?
How safe is that?
You asked them to follow some safety rules. Now they're asking you. In fact, they're counting on you. Never let your gun get into the wrong hands. Remember, always lock it up. Visit ncpc.org.
Now we are going to head back out to the two places where our two live reporters are. Megan is out at the Noreen Hammond watch party. Megan, what are you seeing out there?
Brown County are 65% for Noreen Hammond, and so that's what the cheer is about. We also have Knox County, 3 out of 62.0% for Noreen there. And as you can see, that's all of the information I have at this time. So I'm going to toss it over to Redrick, too, standing by at John Curtis's watch party. Redrick?
We're going to send it to break here, and we will come back hopefully with a few updates after this.
Taught him how to hit a baseball, how to hit a receiver, the strike zone, the net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Hey, Hard, what's this? That's my resignation letter. You're resigning. Why? Because you're constantly ignoring me, you're half as active as you used to be, and you read stuff like this. You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately. That's why I'm ready to quit. I forgot. I'll do better. Please, don't quit on me. Okay. But remember, it's not what you say, it's what you do.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you.
Let's go for a walk.
Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
Well, so we are still here with updating coverage. We are currently working to get as much information as we can. We earlier brought to you that Tammy Duckworth was able to bring in, and she came out ahead. We were talking about Mark Kirk. We also earlier were talking about how important Florida was for Trump and for everyone else. We're going to take a look right here. You can see the United States Senator. I'm going to go right back to United States Senator here.
And that was Tammy Duckworth pulling away, and she pulled away by a good margin as well. It was 65.15% for Tammy Duckworth. Mark Kirk with nearly 30%. And again, that's all precincts reporting there.
So Noreen Hammond, we're currently getting updates about Noreen Hammond here. She was pulling ahead just a little bit. You know, this is going to be something that we have to go on all night about. It's not going to be something that we can finish here within the last 2 minutes of our show. So what we're going to do is we are going to sign off here in about 60 seconds, but you're going to be able to continue following our coverage. We're going to go live on Facebook, Danny and I. We are going to continue to go live here throughout the evening. We are going to toss it to Redrick right now.
He's with John Curtis.
Yes, he is with John Curtis. Redrick, what do you have?
And we are live at the Democratic Watch Party here at Curtis headquarters, and I've got a special guest with me. It is John Curtis, one of the nominees for the 93rd District State Rep seat. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us, and really just your thoughts on the night so far. How is the team feeling as the election results continue to pour in?
Well, my team has been working since 4 a.m. this morning, so they're a little beat. I'm the one that's rested and kind of anxious. So, yeah, we're kind of looking forward to see what happens here.
And, well, there's so many people here now that we had to move location.
Well, that was nice that we heard from them there. We're going to continue to update you. We have only about 45 seconds left with you. So 50% of the precincts of here in the 93rd District have reported. 57.28 have decided to pick Noreen Hammond. 42.72 for John Curtis. Very close race. We're going to continue to update you. As soon as we get off the air here, we have about 10 seconds left with you. We are going to continue our coverage live on Facebook. Continue to stay up with Danny and I.
Join us Thursday for News 3 Live at 4. We're also online all the time as well. Stay up to date with us, news3wou.com. And again, Facebook Live right after this to bring you those results. Thank you so much for joining us on election coverage.
And from all of us here at News 3, have a good night and join us now on Facebook Live. Good night, McCollum.